And welcome to Harlem Sculpture Gardens. We're so glad to be back in the studio, and we have another special guest with us today. We have the floral designer, Marc Wilson. So, Marc, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you for inviting me over. Looking forward to this.
Yes, Marc and I have known each other now for
long
several,
time.
yes, several
Our
years.
paths keep crossing.
I know, they keep passing. And so, we're going to talk to Marc about his artistic practice, floral design, how he got into it, what makes it so special for him, and then we'll dovetail a little bit more about the exhibition and the installations we hope to see. So, Marc, what made you decide to go into floral design?
Wow, that's a really interesting and a little bit of a complicated question. So I actually started went to art school in Missouri,
Oh,
and I studied sculptural textiles and painting.
okay.
And when I moved to New York City, I thought I was going to be a fine artist back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and realized quickly I needed to eat, like so many of us, right? So I ended up applying. Back in those days, you could actually find a job on the New York Times want ads.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes,
Back
yes.
in the day. That's
Yes.
kind of like probably saying how old I am.
Okay,
But
okay.
I actually found my first job in home textiles in that industry, and I was in it for 8 years. Did really well, and was national, and I did national and international work for them. And then after 8 years, the company was sold. I got my severance, took a year off, decided I wanted to start doing something more organic and be more creative, because even though I was dealing with something that was in creative in terms of printing textiles and all that stuff, I wanted to be more textile.
Okay. Tactile.
Tactile. Thank you. Still out of breath here. And so I realized, I said, I want to just do flowers. I said, I don't know if I can do this, but let me go try.
Okay.
So I went and apprenticed with a very high-end floral designer on Madison Avenue for a
Okay.
summer.
Okay.
Then realized I could actually do this. Then I applied for freelance jobs with other major floral designers of the time, like
Okay.
Preston Bailey.
Oh, I haven't heard that name in a long
Oh
time.
yeah, love him, Preston, and Robert Isabel. I worked for a time. A lot of the big players of the time. Then I actually went back into my industry, went back to home furnishings, and started and said, look, we do markets twice a year. Why don't you let me do the flowers and plants for your market weeks? And that's how I started my company.
Wow, that was clever on your part. That was very
I
clever.
went back to what I knew.
Okay, but
You know?
still, you proposed to them this
Yeah.
idea, so
Yeah.
that way you could get some support for doing what you were
Exactly,
doing.
and I slowly built my company through there, and then I went into doing corporate for Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse. We did BlackRock, back a lot of those big Fortune 500 companies of the day. And then when the economy crashed in 2008, 2009, I had to recreate my life and recreate my company, but we're still here after 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still here.
In fact, we have some images of some of your installations for corporate events.
Yes.
And we're showing them now.
Oh, cool.
And they're quite beautiful. They're quite elaborate, too.
Thank you.
So you can see the painterly style.
Yes. You see that.
Okay,
Thank
I
you
see that
very
painterly
much.
style
Yeah.
in your floral designs. And
Yeah.
I think that makes it different from a lot of other.
Very tactile, very colorful, very, one of the taglines of my company from day one is I wanted the look and feel to be about understated elegance. I come from the Midwest. We're not showy people, but we do understand good taste and style, right? So I took what I learned, and actually I learned all of that from my grandmother, watching her set dinner tables for the family during Easter Sunday,
Yes,
Christmas,
yes.
after church, all of that. So
Oh,
I
now
learned
we
a-
really can talk.
I learned a lot of how things should look and be placed from her. I really did.
Oh, God, we could talk because,
Yeah.
one of the things I do, when I deal with younger people today, I ask them, did your family do dinner parties? And they just look at me like, what?
Like, you're crazy, right? They're like, no.
I said,
I
"It's
think it's
dinner."
our generation. I don't think that they.
Well, we might be the last generation
Yeah.
because they don't
Yeah.
understand dinner parties.
No, they don't.
And it's not what you think, because on television they show it differently. They make it about being wealthy.
Yes, and it wasn't about that at all.
And
Actually,
nothing at all. It was all about gathering people and
community,
yes,
food,
real community.
conversation.
Yes, dancing,
Yes.
music, singing,
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
instruments. It was very,
Yeah.
very beautiful.
It was really beautiful. Yeah.
Different generations, interacting with each other. And that is almost like lost
Yes,
now
yeah.
because nobody knows what you're talking
They don't know.
about.
We still have to show people how to set a dinner, how to set a table. Like the fork goes on the left,
Mm-hmm.
the spoon and the knife goes on the right. You'd be surprised how many people have no
It's
idea how to
unbelievable
set
to
a
me.
table properly.
Right. And now what was funny about my family's dinner parties, my grandmother hosted the dinner parties,
Yeah.
but she was a terrible cook.
Oh, my grandmother was my poor mom. God bless her. She was a horrible cook.
Now it's reversed, okay? My mother was the excellent cook. My
Yeah.
grandmother was the terrible cook,
That's
but
so
she could
funny.
host.
But she could host.
And my uncle, God rest his soul, was the best cook in the family.
right.
And he only cooked for my grandmother
I love
for
it.
the holidays.
Right, I love
but
that.
my grandmother could set it up. She could make
Yeah,
everything look
yeah.
good. And that's how people used to entertain.
Presentation was everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Entertaining wasn't about being wealthy. It was about connecting and having the right colors or the theme
Exactly.
or the setting added to the whole thing.
And it's really interesting because I did not realize all of that was resonating through me until I actually started doing flowers and I started doing events and I started to really, because we started off as a basic floral design studio, but we quickly moved into full-scale event design and production. So we do nuts to bolts. We can come in and create an empty room and create whatever type of environment you wish for your parties. And we love that. I love that about my events. It's like it's very immersive.
Yes,
It's very
that's what I
immersive,
was
it's very
thinking.
tactile,
Yes,
it's very
yes.
colorful.
Yes.
There's experiences that we're creating through the course from the moment you get out of the car,
Right.
through the time you do check-in, cocktail hour, move into dinner, and then to the after party. These are all moments of experiences, and there's a visual. Unconscious visual moment that happens. Some people get it, some people don't. They don't know why they think it's so beautiful. They're just like, oh, that's really pretty. That's so nice. They don't really think about all the details
The
that went
details,
into
yes.
why you're reacting to it in that way, right?
The
So
other-
it's important to me that that happens.
No. I get it totally.
me.
That's why I reached out to you about the exhibition that we're doing and my thought about flower bombing because
That was a great idea. When you called me, I was like, yes.
that happens downtown.
Yes,
It
does.
doesn't happen in communities of color.
And we've been having that conversation up here also about why are we not doing something. So this became a perfect opportunity for me to then reach out to other floral and event designers in our industry and say, hey, come up to Harlem. This is a really great spring event. And it's a great way to promote Harlem. It's a great
Yes.
way to promote your business.
Yes.
It's a win-win for everybody, right?
It is.
It truly is.
Because I find that, the narrative still about Harlem or communities of color is so negative still.
Yeah, it
and
is.
it's getting worse. It's
Yeah.
not getting better.
It's not gotten better.
No.
It
just morphed.
morphed into something that I don't understand or know.
Right. Like
And it makes me very disappointed because there's no connection. It seems like our societies are becoming much more separate.
I thought we had moved past a lot of this as a society. I thought we were moving forward. I know people thought with Obama as president, things would go forward. And what really, I have to say this before we move on, a lot of these people who are now Trump supporters actually voted for Obama
Yeah,
a second term.
I know.
And that's what puzzles me. You voted for him for a second term, and then you kind of switched, and it's like,
And now
what
they're
happened?
voting against their own interests.
Yes, their own interests.
Unconsciously or maybe even consciously, who knows?
Yeah, but what really concerns me is the narratives
Yeah.
about people of color.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me. That's why I asked you if you would be interested, because what has happened in neighborhoods of color, things are going backwards. They're not going forward. And we have more crime, we have more despair, we have more
Yeah.
confused people.
Yeah.
And by having outdoor
A
sculptures.
lot more sadness in
Yes.
the world.
Yes, by having sculptures, I want people to say, this is in my neighborhood.
Well,
this is in downtown. This is here, right where I live.
So to your point, representation matters, right?
It does.
So for me, in doing that representation matters, I have purposefully, consciously made sure that my company always stayed in Harlem.
Good.
I was only not in Harlem for just a few years, and then I moved the company back to Harlem. We've been here now again for almost 8 years now. We've been back in Harlem. And being able to show that a floral and event design and production company on the level that we produce nationally and internationally can live, can be running a business in Harlem.
Yes.
Within our community,
Yes.
among our own people, and doing it at a very high
Yes.
luxury level.
Yes.
So that really mattered to me, that we showed people that there are Black businesses that do this. You know, when we talked very briefly at a different time about how the possibilities of your life, I talk about that a little bit. That is the crux of why I do it. It's showing someone else the possibilities of their life. It's not that we always have to be basketball players or football players or whatever. Nothing's wrong with that.
No.
But you can also be a creative. You can be a producer. You can be a designer. You can be whatever you want to be. You're limited by your own imagination.
Correct.
And being able to show young Black and brown kids that we're doing all of these different things. You can be an artist. You know, Diane Smith, who we have as a mutual friend, I love, and such a fan of her work. I mean, just being able to show the possibilities in front of us is so important.
And
So-
we didn't really have that. That's what I
No.
try to tell a lot of younger people. We didn't have those role models.
Not at all.
And so we've been trying to find our way, navigate our way, because our parents and grandparents couldn't even tell us what
Yeah.
those possibilities
No,
would be.
because they couldn't imagine it themselves.
Right. That's why what you're about to do is great. Let's talk about flower bombing. I mean, that's a whole new concept, flower bomb. Tell us about it. I know you've done it before. Tell us what
I mean,
you do.
it's nice to collaborate with other artists and have a dialogue of what they're trying to represent or say with their work, and then have us come in and collaborate and accentuate and build off of those concepts and ideas and bring our own sensibility to it as well, so that it kind of merges together and
Yeah.
creates this other, which ends up being sometimes really quite amazing.
Yes.
Because you're taking these beautiful sculptures and you're putting them in a different context. Like you have there was one that the girls and I in the studio were talking about. You have a deer with those
Yes,
with those
yes.
beautiful
Naya loves that one.
with those beautiful, I think
Antlers,
leaf
yes,
antlers.
yes, yes.
Just think about putting that like since it's spring, right? Think about putting that in a field of daffodils or a field of tulips. This beautiful, majestic animal just sitting in this beautiful field of flowers. That's almost Disney-like, and kind of it takes your imagination to a different level, right? There's things like that. Another one of the sculptures, and I think the gentleman was on here already.
Okay.
The DJ booth.
Oh, yes. Sherwin.
So
Yes.
we sat there and we talked about Sherwin's work, and we were like, what if we took LPs?
Ooh.
LPs like
Yeah.
the old, what are the 45s
Yeah.
and the LPs?
Yeah.
Cut out the center, built a whole environment around them, and then the flowers were coming out of the
Oh
LPs.
my God, that's a great idea.
So I mean, it makes it a lot more fun for us as a design studio to collaborate and kind of build on concepts that are that you guys are doing for the flower. So flower bombing is fun. It is, and this one here is even more exceptional because we really have no limits, right?
Yes.
To what we can do.
Yes.
We're limited by our own imagination.
Yes, and I really do believe that people in Harlem will love it.
Oh, I know they will.
And we're going to have people taking pictures every day.
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
When I just described
Just fun.
it. Yes.
Just happiness.
Joyfulness.
Joyful.
We
Yeah.
need that
Yeah.
nowadays. There's
long
so
as
much
it doesn't
negative.
rain.
Well, Torrential rain.
Yeah.
Light rain is one thing. Torrential rain is
God,
another.
you want to give us a break up there?
But I just feel that people will sense that feeling of joy.
Just joy. Yeah.
That we can have that because
Yeah.
too much negativity is going
There's
on.
a lot of negativity right
and
now.
too much of it keeps, being thrown at us. Repeating constantly negative, negative, negative. We want people to feel hopeful.
Yeah.
And so I am so grateful that you were able to come. I'm glad we had this conversation because it could go a little bit longer and a lot more deeper.
Yeah, even with the studio that we just opened at 138th in Adam Clayton Powell, my studio was the original location of Red Rooster.
Really?
Yes, it was the original location of Red Rooster before Marcus Samuelson
Yeah, I
took the
know.
name and whatever. So it was the fact that we're in such an historical space.
Yes.
That has such strong black and brown representation flowing through its pedigree of the building is kind of really an honor for us to have transformed this space into our own event studio, still black owned, still people of color.
Yes.
That legacy continues, and that makes me really proud.
Oh
That makes
my
me really,
God,
really proud.
that makes me happy knowing that. I didn't know that was the original Red Rooster.
It's the original location of Red Rooster. I was blown away when I found out. Because I didn't know when we were signing the lease. I was like, this is what? Red Rooster?
There's so much
And
history.
Cecil, there was another gentleman.
The Cecil?
Cecil B.
Rhodes?
No, he was a before it was Red Rooster, it was Cecil's, it was a record store.
Okay.
From the 20s and 30s, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was from way back. Yeah, it was also black owned. I think it was. There's pictures in the lobby of the building.
Okay.
Of these people. So
it's just that we were more independent before the Depression.
Yeah.
As a people, and a lot of that kind of got watered down. And it was done deliberately. It was not just done by accident. And I'm sensing that people are trying to bring that back again. That sense of we can...
Not maybe a full renaissance,
No.
but we're definitely staking our claim.
Yes.
We really are. A lot of us are trying to stake our claim right now. And this is our Harlem. This is Harlem. It's always going to be our Harlem. And we're going to be building businesses and creating moments and creating things that are going to really kind of, set the tone for the next generation.
And the narrative is not going to be negative.
And it's not negative.
It's going to be positive. It's not
positive.
going to be negative. It will be positive.
It's all positive. I know. I believe it.
I do too.
I
Well,
truly
I
believe
just
it.
want to thank you so much, Marc, for coming out today to the studio to talk. This is such a pleasure. And thank you for agreeing to do it because I think people are going to be so blown
we're
away.
gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah.
They're going to be like, wow.
So now do I have to, so now you're probably going to see this. So am I going to have to fight you for that deer?
You and I are going to have to fight for that deer, man.
No,
She likes that.
I'm just teasing.
But I like what you have in mind
But
for Sherwin's piece.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
Because Lisa, who was in our office, it resonated with her right away. And she was like, wow, this is really cool. We can do something fun with this.
Okay.
So, yeah. So maybe.
We'll
maybe
figure it out.
We're not sure yet. We'll
figure
figure it out,
We'll
right?
figure this out.
We'll figure it out. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
It's an
so
absolute
much.
honor.
Thank
Yeah.
you.